Farm for Profit Podcast. Take a listen, have a blast. Farm for Profit Podcast. Learn about farming while having a laugh. Farm for Profit Podcast.
Hey, listeners, welcome back to the Farm for Profit Podcast. This is Tanner.
Corey's here.
We're excited. This is a full studio. I love it when we get to do things in person. I love it when we get to have folks around. It just makes it so much better when you have conversation, camaraderie, and you can make maybe the interviews go a little longer than you think.
Yeah, it's always better in person. You just it's authentic that way. We love the ability to reach out to someone across the world with technology, but this always feels better.
It does. Listeners, speaking of being across the world, we appreciate all of you. Everywhere that you are important to us, and your ideas are important as well. farmforprofitllc@gmail.com. You can also send us that text or leave a voicemail at 515-207-9640. Always love those. Had a feedback on our text line. We created a Twitter poll, and we had a farmer that does row crops. We had a livestock producer. We had ag sales and other.
Yep.
There's a suggestion that we should have someone who does row crops and livestock.
Okay.
It's like, that's great feedback. I'm not sure how we missed that.
I feel like we've done that.
We have.
Right.
We have. Not on that poll, though. We could have done better.
I guess I missed that poll.
You didn't give your feedback.
Well, we're short on time, so we should get...
You want to get into it?
I think this is a first for us, I think. Going a little bit off of our beaten path. We typically stay out of a lot of issues on this podcast, but this one is elevated enough for agriculture that I think we need to be talking about it. And so we have invited our friends from the Central Iowa Water Works and the Des Moines Water Works, and then Keegan, who helps us with the North American Conservation and Drainage Expo, all in-house. And so, yeah, if we could get some backgrounds from you, I think we'll start with you, Tami. And what's your role?
Thanks for having us, Corey and Tanner. I'm Tami Madsen. I'm the Executive Director of Central Iowa Water Works. We've only been in operation since January. I'm glad to be here.
Yes, we appreciate having you here. So, Tami, you are the current CEO and the first ever Executive Director.
I am.
Because it's brand new.
It's brand new.
There couldn't have been anybody before you.
There couldn't have been, but there were quite a lot of people working on this project before I came. So all of the great work that's happened thus far has been a collaboration of 12 member agencies and quite a lot of people who've put a lot of thought into this project.
And before you stepped into this role, what were you doing?
I was the executive director of another regional project in North Dakota that also had member agencies that came together for a very similar purpose.
Very cool. And then we also have Amy Kahler in studio with us. Let us know a little bit about your role and your background.
Again, Amy Kahler, CEO of Des Moines Water Works. I'm about 4 weeks deep into that role, and it's been a ride so far. It's been a lot of fun. I have been at Des Moines Water Works, though, for 25 years, and I grew up really professionally on the finance, customer service, business side of the house. But anytime that you are within the walls of an organization, you see, everything that there is. And so it's been a great learning experience, and it's fun to serve, a pleasure to serve the Des Moines community.
Mm-hmm. Well, congratulations to step into a role. What a time to
I wonder
step up.
I wonder if they were further in their roles, if they would have still came.
We absolutely would have. Yes.
Well, Corey, you might think that Iowa just grows corn, but the truth is corn grows Iowa.
That's right. The Iowa Corn Growers Association is a grassroots organization made up of over 7,000 farmer members working together to advocate on policy issues that matter most to your farm.
That's right. United, our voices are stronger. So join ICGA today to pass policies that impact all of Iowa's corn farmers.
Visit iowacorn.org/join today to amplify your voice.
Appreciate you joining us. I know we're going to get more of each background, but we also have Keegan here, no stranger to the podcast. I believe we've got to hear his voice a couple of times, like I said, in conjunction with Nitrate. And then also, you are the Executive Director of Agricultural Drainage Management Coalition. Let's tell our listeners a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, thanks, Tanner. Keegan called the ADMC, so I've been with the ADMC for about 7 years now. And the coalition, we're the industry educational nonprofit that works with a lot of the drainage companies And really our role is to expand the use of these best management practices associated with drainage. So we know there's a lot of practices that can work to improve the agronomics for the farmers, but then also the environmental outcomes downstream.
This is an conversation that Corey and I have been anticipating since as long as we had the date set and the time. And we're excited to jump right into it. But from our perspectives, right, Corey and his family have been farming for how many generations outside of?
I'm the fifth. Technically, it's been in the family since 1902. It actually goes back to the mid-1850s, is in and out of the family, but we did get our century farm status in 2002.
Yeah, actually, as we speak today, I think the Iowa State Fair is doing their Century Farm Heritage
it's
Farm.
Thursday so it'll be a long day for those people. They're doing the 100 and the 150 year awards today.
Isn't that wild? 150 years, same family. So that's kind of neat, giving you guys a little bit of our background. I grew up on a family farm, went into finance with my degree, and now spend more time helping both the in-laws and my family's farm, as well as hosting Farm for Profit. So excited to jive with you and then dive into the conversation about water quality.
Yep.
Des Moines makes the news a lot for a lot of different things, whether it's from caucusing to insurance capital to agriculture to water lately. And a lot of this conversation, I'm excited because I feel like we got the right people in the room to be able to hammer out facts, hammer out where things need to go, what can be done, and maybe even suggestions that you guys have learned along the way, because I'm sure you've had a lot of conversations.
Yep. Before I still want to go deeper into some of their background.
Absolutely.
Go deep into it. I'm curious where you guys are from, and do you have any tie to agriculture in your upbringing at all? So, Tami?
Yeah, absolutely. So I spent most of my time in Texas. My parents have a very, very small ranch. I'm almost embarrassed to say it's only 400 acres. Go ahead and laugh.
No, that is not. What's the average farm in Iowa?
Let's look it up. Keep going.
That is not small. I mean, if you have 400 acres right now, and say in Iowa, you'd have over $4 million worth of equity. If you
Really?
Right? Yeah.
Wow.
So,
the average farm size in Iowa, according to Google, is 345
There
acres.
you go.
You're above average.
All right. There you go.
maybe it's small in Texas. Everything's bigger.
Touche.
There you go.
Touche.
Yep. And so my husband grew up in Jordan, Montana, and they had a very big operation there, and they had feedlots. And so he grew up in ag. I get to hear a lot of stories about his time on the ranch. I went to college at the University of Texas. I have a bachelor's and a master's degree in business. And then I also have a master's of environmental science and hydrology from the University of Oklahoma, Boomer Sooner. I really enjoy working in the water space and in just in environmental science in general. It's very interesting to me. And I think that we can work together on a lot of environmental science issues.
Yep. You have any do you follow college sports at all? Is there a tie? Are you a Sooner? Are you a Longhorn?
I actually like being both because it works to my advantage. I always win. So,
Ouch.
Good answer.
yeah.
If something doesn't go right in this conversation, I might have to throw horns down or something.
I specifically wore my Iowa State hat today. I knew we'd be talking some water, and Iowa State has a big, footprint in that. And I graduated from there, so I figured I better support the state today.
There you go.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's great.
Amy, what about you? Background in agriculture at all?
I do. I grew up in southeast Iowa, a small rural town called Sigourney. It's the county seat of Keokuk County. Your comments about Century Farms and the Iowa State Fair this week resonated with me because I remember, I'm not going to get the exact year right, but it was probably 2002, 2003, somewhere in there. My family stood at the Iowa State Fair and received a Century Farm Award.
We might have been there together.
Yeah, we might have been. We'll have to check the pictures.
Yeah.
But it was my grandparents' farm, and they took great pride in it. I still remember my dad, after my grandparents were gone, driving us around the farm on a hayride just to point out the stewardship and the conservation practices were something that they were really proud of.
Mm-hmm.
So it is near and dear to my heart.
Yep. Keegan?
Well, absolutely. I grew up in Coon Rapids, Iowa, out on the farm, so heart of our country out there. Spent some summers detasseling. A lot of summers on the bean bar for my dad, which usually meant I got the leaky spray gun every time at the end of the end of the bar. Also remembering that right now too, because it's back to school time, and my dad worked it out pretty well because we got paid for it, but our paycheck pretty much went directly into buying, our back to school items on that. So I was pretty excited as I'm buying that for my kids right now. I'm thinking, oh man, it'd be nice if I could have worked out a deal like that, like my dad did. But we farmed until about the mid '90s, and my dad got out of farming, but he still worked at the local co-op after that. But went to Iowa State University, so very much ingrained in the farm community.
Very good.
That's wild. We all grew up with a tie.
I think there's a lot of people in Iowa that their first job was detasseling. It was my first job. So I did not enjoy it. Yep.
Yeah, those corn cuts and heavy wet boots, soaked pants.
Muddy. Yeah, it was no fun. Bugs everywhere. Yeah.
So you want more background?
No, I think that's good. I just wanted to lay it because I knew you guys did have a tie to agriculture. I think that's very important in the roles that you at least have some knowledge of that growing up and, not completely removed. Because that is a lot of times that some of the issues we have with people that don't enjoy agriculture or think that we're destroying the world is a lot of times they've just been removed from the farm for so long and just don't understand quite what's going on out there. So I'm glad to hear that you guys have some farming background.
We're on the same team.
Yep.
Yeah, I feel like my goal by the end of this conversation is, we've already made a connection. We joked about how we got a hold of you guys to come in and be the guest, and we should have just called your office. We thought we had to go through somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody.
Yeah.
To where by the end of this, we've all got a direct connection to somebody on all sides of the conversation, and for perspective that doesn't stop here when the recording ends, that there's more conversations to be had, but get some good baseline out there to where our audience can be educated right along the side of all of us from both sides. And then hopefully your team finds valuable in this conversation to be able to share it with those that are in your areas that you have as far as influence goes. So the number one thing is we all want clean water. We don't want to worry about water. We shouldn't have to worry about water. Mm-hmm. There's places all over this world to where they don't have that luxury, to where it is a constant worry every single day. But the fact that we have good water to start with, and the technology and potential solutions to make it even better is probably something that's unique.
Yep. So why don't one of you lay out some of the issues that we have been seeing in the news with our water quality here in Central Iowa? Who would like to take it?
I can give a start. Excuse me. I'll just start by saying that Des Moines Water Works is the largest contract operator for Central Iowa Water Works. So Tami and I team up a lot to talk about these issues because they're important for 20% of the state is the area that we serve. We serve 600,000 Iowans working together. And, providing safe water, protecting public health is our core mission, and it is at the heart of everything we do. Mm-hmm. We make tough decisions so that we can meet that mission and protect public health. And so this summer, we saw a lot of headlines about what was happening in Central Iowa related to water, and there were some tough decisions that were made. But what was happening is the nitrate concentrations in the Des Moines River and the Raccoon River, which are our two water sources in the Des Moines metro, were as high as they've ever been. And that creates challenges for us. Des Moines Water Works, operating the facility, has a very large nitrate removal facility. It's advanced treatment, and when nitrate concentrations in the rivers get that high, we have to flip that on.
Yep.
What made it especially challenging this year was that all of our water sources were above that safe drinking water standard. Typically in the past, we've been able to rely on a different water source when one source was higher. But this really took almost all the tools out of our toolbox. And so it also came at a time, it's been called a perfect storm, when demand was starting to really escalate because customers were watering their lawns. Mm-hmm. And so we couldn't manage the nitrate in the source water. And so the only thing that we could manage was the demand. And so we had to, on June 12th, ask customers to stop watering their lawns.
Yep.
And just the communication around that, it was challenging.
Yeah.
So for our listeners, define sources. So when you say all of the sources were above this level, can you describe what those sources are?
Yes. And first I want to distinguish between when I say source water, which is the rivers, or some communities have wells, groundwater wells, aquifer, and drinking water. And I want to be clear, the drinking water that has been treated and is coming out of faucets has always been safe. It always meets those safe drinking water standards. But where we find our challenges is taking it from the sources. So we use the Des Moines River, the Raccoon River, and we also have the benefit of a 3-mile underground, really pipeline that sits adjacent to the Raccoon River. We call it our infiltration gallery. And it has the benefit of natural filtration. So it's taking groundwater and naturally filtering it. And that was our first source and only source until 1949, and it's traditionally our best source.
Oh, really?
And so that's essentially like a really big tile that runs
That's right.
adjacent to
It's a great way to describe it.
Raccoon River, and it's filtered through sand and gravel and dirt down there. And that was, I watched your guys' video online, which is really good. It's like in the mid 1850s or 1800s that was actually installed.
Yes, and it was, again, till 1949, the only source. And then we started adding the rivers so that we could diversify our water sources and as the city grew. So again, typically that is our best water source, but even that was above the drinking water standard.
And you also have an aquifer as well. Is that like a backup, or the Jordan aquifer?
We are constructing Des Moines Water Works, but the region, Central Iowa Water Works, also has aquifer storage and recovery wells that we have. Central Iowa Water Works has 3. Several of the members are constructing their own, where we put finished water into the aquifer in the winter when demand is low. And then we are able to extract or recover from that well in the summer when demands are high.
Yeah, I think that's a really good thing to point out about Central Iowa Water Works. We don't only have the Fleur Drive plant and those ASRs. We also have a Polk City plant, the AC Ward plant in West Des Moines. So we have a vast array of resources available to us to overcome these challenges.
What was the demand for Central Iowa Water Works to come on additional to Des Moines Water Works?
So,
what was the brainchild, I guess, behind it?
Sure. So Central Iowa Water Works is local communities, utilities, and rural water providers. We're working together to ensure a reliable water supply. We're focused on maintaining a robust water system that can withstand challenges and meet the future needs of growing dynamic metro area. So the 12-member agencies came together to plan for future growth, meet resiliency, and then also meet source water challenges. So as we're growing and looking for new source water, we can all work together to plan for those activities.
So staying on the topic of scope, Amy, you said 600,000 is who Des Moines Water Works services. I mean, how big is Des Moines now? Is it 600,000?
No, that would be the whole region. So Central Iowa Water Works serves 600,000. So prior to Central Iowa Water Works, Des Moines Water Works was the regional provider. And one thing that has been misunderstood throughout this whole ordeal is that Central Iowa Water Works serves the same number of customers and residents that Des Moines Water Works did.
Yeah, it's not addition.
There's no additional customers. Grimes did join, and Des Moines Water Works didn't join or didn't serve Grimes, but Grimes brings its own treatment to the region as well. So there was, I think, a misunderstanding that Central Iowa Water Works had taken on additional customers, and that's not.
I mean, because I was going to say, we are north of Polk City, which is quite a ways from Des Moines, a 25, 30-minute drive. We are on Des Moines Water Works.
That's right.
Water there. So
you're one of our 600,000.
Yeah, so I would have thought it maybe would have been bigger just based off the population and the surrounding communities, because Des Moines as a metro, when you throw in Waukee and Ankeny and all that, like, gets pretty big. But they some of those must have their own treatment facilities.
So Polk City does have a water treatment plant that Central Iowa Water Works now owns, but they also blend that water with the water that comes from the Des Moines Water Works plant.
Okay.
So that's part of the benefit of regionalization through Central Iowa Water Works, is that we can all share in those utilities, that infrastructure with the Polk City plant, with the AC Ward plant in West Des Moines, the Grimes plant once it's connected to the system. Yes, so Polk City does have water that comes from that plant as well as the Des Moines Fluor Drive plant.
That's interesting because my dad serves and has served on an electric cooperative board in Northwest Iowa, and it sounds a lot like the same, to where they're getting their power from a lot of different sources to be able to serve that area, that territory.
Absolutely, that's part of resiliency.
One thing, we did have a listener, it just sparked me. I love our text line to be able to interact, and we had a listener from California that was texting in saying that they have credits. They go about 10 foot underground to be able to recharge the aquifer to get credits to pump groundwater in dry years.
Yeah, you want to get into water issues, you go to California. That's crazy out there.
Yeah, it's a long text string, but I thought that was really neat. That it makes complete sense when you say it out loud. That when demand's not high, let's store this. Let's try to save and preserve, so that way we can maximize the capacity of our facilities.
Yeah. That's right.
Talk about the nitrates. I mean, obviously it sounds really bad, but what health-wise does elevated nitrates in the water do to a human health?
I'll take it. The nitrate standard exists because of the concern for what's called blue baby syndrome. And that is an acute condition where it is difficult for a baby to, they become low in oxygen.
Yeah, it's hard to get oxygen in the blood.
Exactly. And so that is really why the standard exists. It's an acute condition. And so, it was really important for us to keep the water supply safe for all customers and everyone who needs our water.
Right. And you guys just had what do you call that just came out 2 weeks ago or 10 days ago?
A study?
Study with over 4,000 hours from scientists and all that. And I watched it and I learned quite a bit. Could you talk about some of the findings that, obviously it's really hard to put an hour and 30 minutes into, a statement, but what were some of the big takeaways?
Well, I think from the Central Iowa Water Works perspective, a big takeaway for us is that we all have work to do. We can work collaboratively on this issue, and I think that we can really see some results if we all work together on it.
Yep.
That was the Polk County study I think that you're talking about, and a couple key metrics or data points that stood out to me was that the Des Moines and the Raccoon Rivers are in the top 2% most polluted rivers in the nation. And so, I think that speaks to the issue that we're here talking about today.
Is that top 2 polluted all pollutants or just like nitrates and phosphorus or?
I'm not confident.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'd have to look at the science behind that.
Right. I don't think Iowans are generally going out and throwing trash in the rivers anymore,
Correct.
Anymore.
Well, I mean, it used to be that was the way it was. You went down and threw it in the dump, before we had municipalities of garbage and things. It wasn't good back in the day, for trash. So I just wanted to clarify that. We are both those rivers are in the Des Moines lobe of soils, which glacier came down from Canada and brought us some of the deepest, darkest, richest soil, nitrogen, organic matter rich soil that even if we didn't apply some would probably have some nitrates.
That's right. It's naturally occurring.
Yes.
Yep. But that is
Which makes for great to grow crops.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
But it's also very flat land.
Yes.
And so the need for tiling, producers and farmers have, 61% of Iowa's tile is in the Des Moines and the Raccoon River watersheds.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So because it's such flat land and you need to whisk the water away.
And Keegan, maybe you can talk to the benefits of tile and what it has done for agriculture in the state.
Yeah, I mean, it's really made Iowa what it is as far as, number one, corn production, top 2 or 3.
I mean, they called us the prairie pothole region.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be grass and duck ponds.
Yeah,
if
exactly.
It wasn't, right?
And so, our ag production system wouldn't be where it's at today without that tile drainage. And I kind of looked up the numbers before, and even in the 1920 census, we had estimated 7 million acres of drainage in the state. So, right now we're at a really good opportunity where we're probably going to be replumbing quite a bit of it. So let's make sure we're making the right choices and doing the right things when we put these new systems in place. But drainage, obviously the benefits that people know about, get in the field earlier in the spring, more consistent, all the way across your field. So, you don't have a wet spot here that you can't get across, so you don't have to come back later. Improves that aeration down in that soil profile so the roots can grow down, access nutrients, access water later in the season for that. So obviously that leads to the yield increases. Some of the newer things that we talk about with drainage and the benefits of is that nitrogen use efficiency. So how efficient can you grow that crop? You can actually improve that with those drainage systems. Other things, nitrogen has a lot of different fates to it, right? And so when we put nitrogen down, there's nitrogen naturally occurring in our soil profile. There's kind of 3 different options for that nitrogen to go into. We all want it to go into the yield, right? We want it to go into the grain. That's number 1 choice. The other kind of 2 that happen with it then is either goes up into the atmosphere or it goes dissolved out the drainage tiles. And so obviously getting more into that yield is the number 1 important thing. And then it's kind of a trade-off of, is it coming out as maybe greenhouse gas through the soil into the atmosphere, or is it leaking out as nitrate into our streams?
Because our air is, 82% nitrogen or 80, somewhere around there?
I always just say about 80%, N2 gas, so.
Yeah.
Yep. And when nitrogen sits saturated, that's when it actually denitrifies up into the atmosphere, right? When it's not moving through the profile, it actually sits.
Yep, exactly. So when you see the yellow spots in the cornfield, that's because you usually have some nitrogen deficiency there, 'cause some of it denitrified. Hopefully we get to 100% denitrification and we don't stop at the intermediate step of N2O, which is the greenhouse gas that we don't want to see. But N2 gas, that's not bad. That's what we have 80% of our atmosphere for.
So one of the things that the Waterworks and I, as a farmer here in Central Iowa in the Des Moines Lobe, has is we probably both benefit from a drought. We do really well because our soil's so deep and we have such good water holding capacity that, the drought of 2012 was actually one of our better years. Where a lot of people with less quality soil were burning up. And then obviously there was no water to take that nitrogen through the profile. So you guys probably weren't turning the system on as much.
Yeah, because you mentioned early on the perfect storm.
Yes.
Can you kind of allude to what that means for someone who's not familiar with what actually happened here in Iowa?
Yeah. And precipitation does play a large part in this issue. The weather does. So what we see is that during times of drought or little rain, there's nothing to run the tiles, and there's nothing to carry those nutrients into the waterways. And so in those years that we have drought, we don't have to run our facility much. If we do, in some years we don't run it at all. Mm-hmm. But what happened this year, we've had from 2021 to 2024 as drought. So there was a lot of nutrient captured in the soil from those years. And then this year, of course, it's rained every day, it seems.
Yes.
It's been very wet.
Corey's had a Snapchat story about that.
Yep, did a daily rain.
And so all of that rain has taken all that stored up nutrient and just keeps flushing it into the waterways, which has, again, caused the nitrate concentrations in our water sources at times to be over double.
So as you look at that report and had looked at the findings, is there anything that stuck out in that from your observations?
One of the key findings that stuck out to me based on the science is that the Des Moines and the Raccoon Rivers, which are Central Iowa's water sources, are in the top 2% most polluted rivers in the nation for nitrate.
For nitrate.
For nitrate specifically, yes.
And do we have history on that? Has it always been in the top 2%, or is this something that's just come in recently?
I can't answer has it always been in the top 2%, but we keep statistics from 1974 until present day on nitrate, and we see a slight upward trend in nitrate concentrations in the rivers.
So this year with our house and having a walkout basement into a backyard of our subdivision, I've never seen that much water. I mean, we've had so much rain this year, but I've never seen that much water in my backyard going through the outlet into the retention pond, which I would assume its outlet has probably never passed as much water through it either, not allowing for it to sit there as long as it is probably designed to be.
That's right. And so then it's not naturally denitrifying. And what's really interesting, though, is that a lot of water, especially when it's localized to central Iowa, can actually dilute those nitrate concentrations. And so we see the nitrate concentrations in our source water dipping down temporarily for maybe 24 hours, and then they spike back up once that rain event is over. And so that has been the other really challenging thing throughout this incident. The nitrate concentrations have been so volatile in that source water, and so it was really hard for us to grab a trend line. You know, are they getting better this summer? There was so much rain; it was just creating such volatility.
Time for a message from one of our great partners, Brandt Industries. And now, for a limited time, Brandt has an exclusive deal on their grain carts, the 000. It's 0 down, 0 interest, and 0 payments for 6 months.
Brandt grain carts have efficient unload speeds, large carrying capacity, and unmatched durability. These carts deliver faster and more thorough cleanout with quicker turnarounds to keep your operation running smoothly.
And their reliable components make sure that your cart is working when you are. Now, this financing offer ends September 30th of 2025, so you won't want to wait. Visit your local Brandt dealer for more information.
Yeah, I think we've had over 40 inches of rain right here since we planted in April-May timeframe. It's
crazy.
Which is a lot. It's actually amazing how decent things look crop-wise for the rain that we've had. Because I think it was 2018 or 19. I remember Ankeny had like a 9-inch rain event. And I remember you couldn't go down roads, you know. Like, I don't know how your yard didn't flood that year. You were probably at work.
Yeah.
You know.
Exactly. But having that water, like I said, the surface runoff is something that I can visually see. When it's this wet, you know, soil naturally filters water, correct? I mean,
Well, they say it in their adjacent
That's true.
line, right?
Yeah.
It's filtered.
when it's this wet and going to the drain tile, is it still doing the same filtration?
So with nitrate, since that's water soluble, you'll actually pick up that nitrate when it goes through. So it'll filter other, contaminants or, sediment will fall out of it, of course. And so you'll see that. And so, the water will look nice and clear, but that's where you'll pick up the nitrates.
Do you guys think that tile is one of the biggest sources of nitrates going into the rivers?
I think tiling is contributing to the high nitrate concentrations because the water doesn't have a chance to naturally filter through the ground and to have that filtration through the gravel and the soil. It's like an expressway to the river, and so it's a rapid release.
So Keegan, I would agree with that statement for like tile inlets that are on the surface, taking the water from the surface direct into the tile. But if we don't have those and it's just tile under 3 foot, 4 foot under the surface, can you explain how tile works in that process?
As far as picking up the nitrates and
nitrates, but if my farmer hat on here, I know when my ground is sitting saturated, I think of the ground as a sponge, right? It's a mixture of soil, nutrients, and air, right? A healthy soil has a certain mix of that. If it's sitting saturated, if that sponge is full, it cannot take any more water. And what happens in these heavy rain events, which I know in your guys' finding has shown larger rain events more frequent, I get what's called gully washers, or which we try to put waterways and buffers and all that to prevent that. But naturally, sometimes, especially when you get into rolling topography, you can lose a lot of soil, which 80-90% of our nutrients is in the top 6 to 8 inches of soil, where all of our organic matter is. So to me, as a farmer, I would rather have that ground ready to take a large rain, infiltrate. Yeah, it might wash some nitrates, but it's actually going to go through a filtration process rather than wash my topsoil. I mean, if we wash our topsoil away, we're screwed. Like, we can't farm anymore.
Yeah, so there's a lot of, trade-offs involved in everything. I always call kind of environmental ecology is all whack-a-mole game. You fix one problem, another one will pop up. So, drainage, absolutely, that was one of the primary purposes, is to pull water from that surface down into the soil profile so we're not getting that surface runoff anymore. And of course, phosphorus is a big issue, and sediment-attached phosphorus, drainage will reduce that. Nitrate's a little bit different animal just because it is dissolved, and so more of that time that water has to flow through that soil profile, the more time it has to pick up nitrate and the organic matter that makes Iowa farming so great, right? So if it's exposed to oxygen, some of that will oxidize then and converts from organic nitrogen to the mineral nitrogen, so that's nitrate. So that's where it can get picked up. To process that, we actually need to get back to anaerobic. And so we need to remove that oxygen from the system. Then the microbes come in and really do that denitrification process. So that's why, we work with practices like saturated buffers and wetlands and denitrifying bioreactors, because that really provides that retention time where, once again, it goes anaerobic and takes all that oxygen out of the system. And then that's how we can process that nitrogen. Unfortunately, we can't just kind of trap that nitrogen in the nitrate form behind, with like a carbon type filter. It doesn't work that way. But yeah, we can definitely do some things with that drainage system to reduce the amount of nitrogen that's escaping.
How cool would that be if I could just catch it and then put it back on my field?
Yeah, that's always a question we get with the bioreactors, right? Like, do we catch it? Can we, use that back in the field? And unfortunately, we can't. The process on that, it's microbial, and so those microbes just consume it and breathe it off as that N2 gas.
So if we can't do that in the field, what's the process on getting it out of the water to make it safe for drinking? Where does it go once it comes out? Or how's that? I don't know how that works.
So again, we have one of the largest nitrate removal facilities, and it's an ion exchange. So it's a little bit like your water softener at home. When we need to run the facility, each vessel is filled with about 2/3 of resin. Excuse me, is filled with about 2/3 of resin. And the resin is a little bit like a magnet. And so the nitrate attaches to that resin and exchanges it for a chloride ion or molecule. And that strips the nitrate out of the water, basically taking that water to nearly zero nitrate.
Yep.
And then we blend that with higher nitrate water
further.
That's right, to meet that safe drinking water standard.
So then what do you do with the ions that you separated?
So we regenerate, and the discharge is like a salt brine. We constructed a pipe to the Wastewater Reclamation Authority several years ago in Des Moines, and we pipe that discharge to the WRA, and it goes through their processes there.
I was going to say, because if I could haul that back to my field.
Well, there is, I can't speak deeply to this, but the WRA does have some of that is land applied. Some of what is part of
recycled.
the result of their process is land applied.
While we're on the process, let's go a little history. We talked about the adjacent pipe that's running, but like, when did these facilities get put into place in Des Moines?
The nitrate removal facility was constructed in 1992.
So
It's
right
been a real
before the
workhorse.
93 flood.
That's right.
I didn't think about that.
And it's been a real workhorse for us since then.
Is it the same size as it was then?
Yes. It is 10 million gallons a day. There's 8 vessels.
So do you know how many people it was serving at that time? 600,000 now?
I don't have the population.
Obviously, it'd be less because Des Moines has grown significantly, and central Iowa. So there has been little to no updates on that system since 92?
Well, that is one of the tools that we have to combat nitrate. But since that time, we have also constructed 2 additional water treatment plants that rely on diverse water sources or low nitrate water source, like a reservoir where that denitrification can occur naturally. So there's been a lot done since 1992.
Right.
That specific facility at Fleur Drive, however, is as it was.
Right. And I imagine, I've watched your video online. It looks pretty massive.
It is. It's a
huge tanks. Something like 40 million gallons a day. Is that right?
10 million gallons.
10 million gallons a day. But you can see upwards of a lot larger than that during peak demands in the summer. Is that?
That's right.
Yep.
In the summer, our peak demands can be 80 million gallons a day or more.
Yeah.
And so that's, again, why we did the lawn watering ban this year, Central Iowa Water Works did, because we couldn't manage the nitrates in the moment
Right.
from the rivers, but we could manage that demand so that we could blend enough to be below that safe drain.
It's crazy that we needed to water
I just was thinking the
when
same
we had
thing.
so much rain.
I don't want to mow that much anyway.
I know.
Well, it was dry early in June. Remember, it was not humid at all and kind of nice. But then, once it started raining, it didn't turn off. It definitely didn't need a water this year after June 12th.
Well, and we're not even going to go to the lawn. There's some issues that we could hit on, but we're just talking agriculture today. My two things I'll say on the lawn side of things is it's too bad we don't have like a nitrate water line that they could water their lawns with, because then they wouldn't have to fertilize.
Yeah,
right. And then B, I built a house in 2019, and I know there's standards for topsoil, and it was supposed to be like 8 inches or something, and I can guarantee you it either was 8 inches and compressed down to 4, but like there's not a lot of topsoil, and then it's clay, and you're laying new sod and all that. You got to water it so much to keep it up. Like, I just wonder if there's something on the new construction side that we could require that, because I know for a fact that my black soil that was where my house was built got sold.
They take
Right?
it off the top.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah. Could they have put 1.5 feet of topsoil that has great Iowa organic matter that doesn't need nutrients, that holds water, that they don't need to water the lawn?
hold water.
When we moved into our house in 2014, I actually brought dirt from the farm to put on the yard. And even then, our graders kind of moved it around and still left a pile as big as the one I dumped from the farm in the lot next to us. Didn't even use it. I was like, what? I brought this here to be, that was the farmer in me.
So Central Iowa Water Works does have a water usage best practices committee, and we are exploring things like that. We did have 2 professors from the University of Iowa come, Dr. Adam Tomes and Quincy Law. I don't know if you guys are familiar with them. I know that they work a lot with some of your constituents, and they're teaching us things like that so that we can pass them down to our member agencies and water users as well, so that we can attack it from that side too.
Yep. And that's what we're all trying to do here, right? Is we're trying to have conversations, and like Tanner said in the beginning, we all want clean water. I think we all understand what agriculture means to the economy of Iowa, the GDP of Iowa, right? So I know there's been some solutions thrown around behind regulation and things like that, and naturally, farmers have a lot of regulation as it is, and they kind of turn their nose up to it. So
Before we got on, one of the items we had on here was the drivers of change and what that means to anybody, what that looks like. Because you mentioned this is state-of-the-art facility. It's nation leading in the ability to remove nitrates. Why don't we just build another one? Well, that doesn't fix the source issue.
That's right.
It provides insurance and clean water, and that's great, but that's expensive to do, right?
Right.
Do you have any idea what adding another one would?
Well, what I can share is that if we, to get through the event that we had this year, without managing demand as we did, again, remember we have 8 vessels. At the nitrate concentrations and demand that we were seeing, we would have required 26 vessels.
Not even just double.
Not even just double.
That's quadruple.
Yep, more than quadruple. So it's a lot of money. That discharge that I talked about, it's difficult. The WRA can't take all that.
Yeah.
And so there are some practical hurdles that we would need to solve to have that be the solution. And it can be part of the solution. We can all be part of the solution. Water utilities need to be part of the solution. Urban neighborhoods need to be part of the solution, and rural areas can be part of the solution too.
Yeah, when the North American Conservation and Drainage Expo, which is still too long to say, but when NACAID was formed, it was formed for part of that educational reason of, okay, let's put some of the smartest folks that have done research in industry and the years of experience from those on the professional side all in one spot to where we can start sharing best practices, try to get adoption, try to be a driver of change. And we've been pleasure. This is not a commercial for them, but it's been a pleasure to watch their curriculum grow. and the depth of the context there, because that directly gets passed into the watershed. Like those practices can get there officially.
And I think that a watershed approach is the best approach because every watershed is different. And so in terms of solutions, something that we can do is set goals by watershed, set policies by watershed to achieve those goals, and then make sure they're funded. Make sure that farmers have the funding that they need to put the practices in the ground because they want to do the right thing. Tami and I have been doing field days to meet with farmers and watershed coordinators, and we've really enjoyed it. And I'll speak for myself. I think I speak for you. We've learned a lot about the practices. We've learned that the saturated buffer can reduce nitrate by 45%. It's effective.
Yeah.
And so, I hear what you're saying about regulation, and I think as long as we all come together and collaborate, it need not go that way, but we do all need to come together in order for it to work.
We farmers usually do pretty good with incentive. Prime example was when the Big Creek watershed was a deal, which is not a deal anymore. That was when we got introduced to cover crops through a cost share program there and got to look. We've actually transitioned our farm to strip till instead of tillage. So we are trying, and that's probably what sparked my want for this conversation was when that stuff came out and we get all this negative publicity, it feels like, against farmers. I mean, we're not in a great market right now, so farmers are against farmers right now. And then when it comes from the outside too, it hurts. But like to say that it's worse than what it was, it really, it doesn't compute in my head because I haven't seen a moldboard plow in my life around here. It's getting harder to find full tillage systems. I've seen way more adoption of no-till, strip-till, variable rate technology, spoon-feeding fertilizer, because our fertilizer prices right now, with all the tariffs and all the stuff that's going on, it's priced like corn should be $7 or $8, and we are $3. So by no means do I think any farmer is using that. Well, let's just throw 10 more pounds of nitrogen on as an insurance policy because we can't afford it. We have moved to, we'll put nitrogen on way less. As Keegan said, we're way more efficient. We've driven our nitrogen per bushel down to 0.7 in some 0.7 per bushel, 7 pounds of nitrogen per bushel, which used to be 1.1, 1.2 because
20 years ago.
Yeah, we were putting less on because we're splitting those applications up from right in time for when that plant needs it. Now, are all farmers doing that? No, we have a long ways to go. But I have seen it's getting hard to drive by in the winter or the fall and not see a cover crop field, every few miles.
And I think that's a great point. Farmers do want to do the right thing. We see that. We're not blaming farmers. But it's a matter of scale. We just need more and more of these practices in the ground, and whether that's funding. Something that we've heard in the field is that it's maybe not even, the coordinators and the farmers that we've talked to, it's not even necessarily the funding that is the barrier. It is some of the red tape to get the practices in the ground, the permitting and the amount of time that it takes. And, let's deal with that. How can we work together to solve that for the farmers and the producers and help them get those practices in the ground?
Yeah, and I'll just jump in, it's kind of 100% committing to that voluntary approach, right? If we want it to work, we got to make it work. And so we can't kind of just dip our toe in it. We kind of have to go all in it. So that, in my mind, that means diversifying like the funding mechanisms that we have, right, to incentivize people to adopt cover crops. Historically, we always rely on NRCS and federal programs. Iowa has really great programs now through IDOLs to incentivize that. So that's really helped increase adoption of practices. Also, one of the things that Iowa does have going for it is the infrastructure that's been built up. So I know our nutrient reduction strategy came out more than 10 years ago now, and it's hard to say, hey, we're making progress on this when we see a summer like we're seeing right now. But one of the big things, I get the pleasure of working kind of all over the Midwest, and people are actually jealous of what we have going on in Iowa as far as our practice delivery right now. So I think we're on the right step to getting that scale. The world I work in, just with these edge of field type practices, IDOLS has 3 full-time employees committed to just doing the edge of field practices, and that doesn't even include their watershed coordinators or anybody else at IDOLS. I'm working in Illinois on a batch and build right now, and they probably have somebody that might spend not even a quarter of their time dedicated to that. So those are some of the things that we have to make this voluntary approach work. And
I'm biased to our audience, right? I would like to say that the farm for profit audience is some of the most advanced producers around, because who's going to commit the time on a weekly or twice weekly basis to learn, to try and do something better, be more effective. And our mission is to help farmers achieve higher levels of profitability. And if you can develop higher levels of profitability for a producer, that provides them the financial means to partner with alternative funding to do things that can continue to push things away. But the math behind over fertilizing doesn't work. The math behind, we want to generate wealth for our family businesses to pass on to the next generation. And almost every producer you talk to says that the biggest asset they have is their soil. So there's no incentive for them to not take care of the ground that they farm, because that's what they need to live off of for years to come.
I think one of the largest challenges is if you're a farmer that if you're lucky enough to farm your whole life, you might get 40 crops. And so we always talk about that. So you have 40 chances, and change can be hard and can be extremely expensive. To go to, say, like a strip till or something that could do no-till, you can't really sell the equipment that you have. We know equipment's gotten really expensive, but like a strip till bar from ETS, for example, for a 16-row strip till bar can cost $400,000. Our margins right now in farming are not good. We've had a few good years, but somehow the inputs always chase us up and make sure that it's very minimal. So just the barrier to entry on some of these, and it just takes time to change. But I do feel like people are moving that direction. It's just slow.
Yeah.
And probably not the speed that, the treatment plants would like.
I got a question to follow that up, but Tami, you've been writing. I didn't know if you had something to contribute.
You can have a book deal out of this.
I'm learning a lot from you guys today. Our focus in our professional life is to create drinking water that meets all safe drinking water standards and make sure that people are getting a quality product out of our plant. But I'm learning a lot from you guys today. And I know that for Central Iowa Water Works, we are interested in a collaborative change. Mm-hmm. And so the things that you're saying today are things that I didn't know, and I'm interested in learning more about. So I'm taking lots and lots of notes to take back with me.
I mentioned that before we even got on the mics, just to give our listeners perspective. I've had the pleasure of being in a lot of leadership trainings, and I've also seen it across my TikTok algorithm that's just something I enjoy is being able to help teach. And one of the demonstrations that I was telling you ahead of time is where a coach comes into a room and gets the leader of the team, the CEO, and works with them audibly to take steps across the room, encouraging them to do them together. They find the middle of the room based upon the number of steps. And as soon as the coach stops giving instructions and pushes against the CEO pushes back. When there's no togetherness, when there's no communication from both sides, it ends up with resistance. And that doesn't do anything, because I think one of the biggest fears that Corey and I have, and probably a lot of our audience and yours, is we can't let this get political, because then people get blind.
I feel like it has gotten political, or a rural city divide in some areas of the internet.
Yeah. And that's not going to be good for anybody. I mean, blame's one word, but there's facts and the willingness to work together that I think can be so much more powerful if there's just, we keep a line of communication like this open.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd certainly agree with that. We at Central Iowa Water Works are interested in keeping that line of communication open, and I do think that there is quite an opportunity for all of us to work together. When we went on the watershed tour, we looked at bioreactors and oxbows, and Justin Greff took us on the tour. It was a great experience to see such a young person so excited for those conservation practices, and he was so giving to educate us on what's going on and the farmers that are really excited about those kinds of practices.
It was neat. Corey and I got to go see a drone demonstration at the same time of a bioreactor being installed just south of Huxley when we first teamed up with the Nitrate.
Yep.
And that was neat to see how that even works. You know, without laying eyes on it, it seems like it can't have as much impact as it does. Now, there's cost share programs, like Keegan said, to where, you know, you can, through IDOLs, get assistance with that as part of your projects. But it just makes you wonder, what more does it take? So as you guys have gone through these exploratory meetings and your teams have met, do you have suggested solutions? Have we not gotten to that point yet?
You know, I think we're learning. And so I guess I have a question.
Yeah.
What do you see as the barriers to implementing some of these practices from the farm perspective?
I mean, I laid out the couple that it just takes time. It's very cost. I know we talked about red tape. Anytime we work with the government, whether it's NRCS or FSA or we like those people, but there's a lot of red tape put in, a lot of paperwork, a lot of hoops to jump through that it makes it difficult.
Yeah, so we need to work on that, I think.
And like, I'm going to tell you right now, we farm right along Big Creek, which is managed by the Army Corps of Engineers. And I remember we had a tile that was broke in there several years ago. It took almost a year to get permission to go in and fix it, right? Just because of...
That's the red tape.
That is.
Right?
Yep.
That's
and
what
that
we're about.
That was one of the simplest of deals, right? Now throw in a bioreactor that is not simple. It takes a lot of engineering. There's a lot of back and forth, and every time emails go back and forth in the government, it's a week. You know? So
yeah, there's a lot of financial ties to it. We have conversations with producers that don't even bring conservation into the conversation. They have fear financially of just transitioning their farm to the next generation. They've worked their 40 crops to build the legacy, because sometimes it's not even wealth. It's just a legacy to be that farmer, to have that passion, to then have a fear that the next generation is going to screw it up. And that next generation is their own blood. You know, it's a personality trait amongst any business owner, whether you're a plumber or you run a transportation business or you're a farmer, that there's always going to be an underlying financial, I need a bigger thesaurus, fear of, if I change the way that I've been doing this that's been working, how do I know it's going to continue to work?
Yeah, fear of the unknown, the uncertainty. But you know what we have heard from Justin and John Swanson and at Polk County is the practices in those watersheds are pretty much paid for, and plus there's an incentive payment beyond that per practice.
Yeah.
We met with a farmer who had close to 40 practices.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yep.
And the maintenance, he said, it's not a big deal. Someone who is really committed, and he said, I've tried to talk to my neighbors, and not everyone is ready for it at this time.
Yeah, then the next step is the education side. I mean, that's the reason Farm for Profit is as successful as it is, because 6 years ago, 11, when you started with the conference, nobody was taking the time to help farmers run their farm more like a business. And then there was nobody doing a podcast that was communicating it in the fashion that we were, to where when Nitrate started, there was nobody collectively, there was regional, but collectively trying to educate. That just goes so far they don't even know that it can be cost covered.
That's right.
So you guys are changing that information delivery model already. And another avenue that I'm seeing that right now that I'm excited about too is kind of the onset of conservation agronomists. So Heartland Co-op, they're doing a lot of great things with their programs right now. But getting that information in the hands of trusted advisors that can communicate with farmers, maybe not some just recent college grad that, and the reality is there's not as many kids coming off the farm anymore. Mm-hmm. So it's harder to get those advisors that can, talk to the farmer directly. But those are some more positive signs that I'm seeing that, to scale this up, we'll start seeing it.
One thing that I don't think would have a direct tie to water quality or this is maybe in the farm bill. I love all farmers, big and small. The system is set up for large farmers right now, large corn and soybean farmers, which we grow very well, and has allowed some people to get really large. But I was a beginning farmer at one time, still would be considered a young young farmer. I've been in it for over 10 years now, so I don't qualify as a beginning farmer. But there was not a lot of opportunities for me to get in. I think there could be some things in the form of diversification to incentivize other crops, smaller livestock farms, things of that nature that, because if you go back to the 70s and say your nitrates were lower, well, guess what? There was a lot of oats and hay and smaller livestock operations. And that's not to bash on, the larger ones, because I know we need it. We're feeding a growing world and we need high quality, consistent protein as well. So maybe just spreading that out a little bit so it doesn't just benefit getting bigger or die, Yeah.
And I want to be courtesy of your time. I feel like there's probably another 15 to 20 minutes of a discussion. But I agree. We haven't really talked livestock today. And we understand that manure is another form of fertilizer that gets put onto crops, and some concentrations in certain portions of the states make it more difficult to not over apply. It's regulated. Our family's under a manure management plan.
Same.
And I have to go, I've got my manure applicator's license in my wallet, have to carry it everywhere I go, because there's a training that I have to go to every year.
That's just because you just put out BS all the time.
Yeah. So there's already practices in place to make sure that education is being done, and that you have the most effective resources at your disposal to do it appropriately. And sometimes that's a pain in the ass, just to be quite frank. I got to take 4 hours to go sit through a session that I feel like a lot of that is stuff I already know. Of course, now I've had to do it for years, to where there's very little that changes in that curriculum. But on the manure side, with the regulations in the state of Iowa, there's already some pieces that are in motion to try and protect and put things into a, I don't know what you want to call it, regulatory perspective, to be able to provide guidelines.
Well, the DNR manages.
Yep.
Right. We have hogs. We have a hog building that was built in 1998. It was actually my ticket back to the farm. If I didn't have that, I wouldn't be on the farm. The manure, it's a great source of natural nutrients that we're not taking synthetic nutrients that are mined from Russia or Canada. So it's this like little full circle cycle, corn, soybeans, pigs, protein that stays in Iowa and stays in the Iowa economy. But it is one of the issues, raising nitrates. So we just have to manage it correctly. On our farm, we have chosen to not go high rates for nitrogen, because we realize the benefits of the organic matter and the micronutrients and all that. So we actually go lower and try to spread it on
cover more acres.
Right?
Yep.
Because again, fertilizer's so expensive, that really helps us out on the bottom line.
If I could add one thing, and this is something that Keegan mentioned just a minute ago, but he was talking about the good efforts of different organizations and partners, and he mentioned Heartland Co-op specifically. And so I wanted to also, I guess, give a shout out. They have been a great partner for Des Moines Water Works. We partnered with them and invested in a cover crop seeder that has been very popular for about 4 years. And so again, I think going to the collaboration, this is the approach that we are hoping to see and do more of. And so we're always looking for those types of opportunities where we can come together, bridge the gap. We're not pointing fingers, we're not placing blame, but we have all got to be part of the solution. And to some extent, we probably all have to acknowledge that we have an issue. And I'm not sure that statewide is even commonly agreed to, but once we get there, we can come together and solve it.
Yeah, that the come togetherness is the reason we put this episode in your inboxes as a suggestion. Yeah. There's, even on our side, I know there's a farmer-city divide because of development. If you look at the millions of acres that are not being farmed now that were farmed 20 years ago because of urban expansion, that potentially puts a burr in the saddle of producers that, okay, land is not made any more of. We can't just go add an acre now that an acre has houses on it, which, that's going to be something that the farmer side has to get over. That's reality. But we've also already discussed on this podcast that we're more efficient than we were 20 years ago with the amount of crop and the amount of livestock that's grown on the square footage we have access to grow it on. So that adoption is happening in quite an interesting side of things. But I don't know how you get rid of that versus piece.
I guess it starts with conversations like this. I think, right? Coming together and having real, authentic conversations, and not just people in the chat on Facebook and TikTok and Instagram, spitting facts or yelling and then leaving.
Social media doesn't help those things, but it's so important in the state of Iowa because so many. I typed a question in way at the beginning of the chat, and I was disappointed in the percentage that it's only 19%. But when they say it's 1 in 5 Iowans is connected to agriculture or an agricultural related industry, that's more impactful.
You might think Iowa just grows corn, but the truth is corn grows Iowa.
Farmers that invest in the Iowa Corn Checkoff support research for new uses of corn, as well as expanding and building the demand for corn in all forms.
By pooling resources, the Iowa Corn Promotion Board increases farmer ROI by investing in research, market development, and education.
For more information, visit iowacorn.org today. But out of all of us, the statistics would say one of us is. But since we all are, now there's some room with 20 people in it that don't have a tie to agriculture. So in the grand scheme of things, that's why it's important for us to get along and to find solutions together.
So what about we've talked about some solutions that we could do. What about on your guys' side? Do you have future plans for expansion or different tactics of nitrates removal, anything like that?
Yeah, so the Central Iowa Water Works Board approved funding for a study on the nitrate removal facility, expanding it, seeing what kind of technology is available for that expansion. That study will be presented for responses in the next month or so. We also have plans for a new West plant, a water treatment plant on the west side of Des Moines. We also have a Saylorville expansion underway now. That plant will grow by another 10 million gallons per day. And then the Grimes water treatment plant will also be expanded. All of this will happen within the next 10 years or so. And then we've also planned out as a region to the year 2050, which would involve another Saylorville water treatment plant expansion as well.
How does that get paid for?
So
that's a lot of expansion.
So all of those expansions were already planned for. So as Central Iowa Water Works was being developed, a study was done with our 12 member agencies to plan for their growth, what kind of industrial development they're going to see, what they expect for population expansion. And together, they determined that these plants needed to be built. So they all have a component of nitrate resiliency because that's just a fact that we see and we experience. But the plants are also necessary for growth and the things that we're seeing in Central Iowa. So the member agencies and the ratepayers will end up paying for these expansions.
Which then will get passed probably on to the end user.
The ratepayers.
Yep.
I mean, are you guys for-profit or non-profit? You're making money with the commodity of water?
Any amount, well, our water rates are set to recover the cost of operations, maintenance, and capital, both capital renewal, replacement, and expansion. Mm-hmm. So on an income statement, it looks like there's a profit, but all of that is plowed right back into the system.
So it's not like
a farmer.
Right, yeah.
It's not like a cooperative to where if you've got a surplus in income at the end of the year, it's returned back to the constituents. It's put back into the much needed. And yep.
That's right.
Have you seen other lookalike communities that have had this issue and done different or, succeed with it? Or is Des Moines truly
when you're the leader,
the spear?
When you're the leader in the nation, there's a hard to find comparables.
There are other communities throughout the nation who have struggled with, especially when they're relying on source water. Toledo, Ohio, had algal blooms, microcystin event a number of years ago. And so, there are others. There are 40 water utilities just in the state of Iowa who have to treat for nitrate. Most of those, of course, are very small. Des Moines Water Works would be the largest. We're the largest in the state. But, it's not just in Des Moines.
I don't think so. We are the start for 4 Mile Creek here in Slater, which I think that goes and dumps into the Skunk, which wouldn't be Des Moines.
Yeah,
right?
this is Des Moines.
But have you guys looked into what is going on here in Slater with Grosswen Technologies and the algae film that they're using to treat the water?
I'm not familiar with that.
Oh, I don't know.
We know some people.
Yeah. Very cool technology. It has raised our sewer bills here in town, but they are using algae to basically consume. They have these films. I mean, they got a greenhouse down here on the south side of town. They used to have 4 settling ponds, and now I think they're only using 1 or 2, and came out of Iowa State University. Really cool technology. We don't need to go deep into it, but you guys should look into that. I don't know that it would be able to treat the amount of gallons, right? But for a small community,
Right.
some pretty cool technology. And they got some cool byproducts coming out with like pellets and stuff like that from algae that could go back onto fields for fertilizer.
Sounds innovative.
Yeah.
What's the timeline that we're talking about? I mean, is it yesterday something needed to happen? Do we have 10 years to work on this? Do we know?
The time is now. Mm-hmm. We, have been talking about it, and we have seen the conversation increase. Frankly, I think it really did stir up during the lawsuit, which was, polarizing. And that approach was not successful on technical grounds. And so, Des Moines Water Works, now working jointly with Central Iowa Water Works, is interested in a collaborative approach. But as Keegan said earlier, in order for that to work, everyone has to come together. And the time is now. We don't have a lot of time to continue just to talk about it. We do need to work together to actually solve for the problem.
Boy, talk about what ifs.
Yeah. The lawsuit 11, 12 years ago, I mean, that's probably divided more than anything, which just from the farmer community.
And I understand.
Right?
that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
That's that analogy of you push.
So you guys are saying that you're not pursuing the lawsuit route this time.
I have not been involved in any discussions about any lawsuit. Mm-hmm. And I'm also not criticizing that decision that was made at the time, but I do acknowledge it was polarizing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're just trying to do what was right. It's just, when
it was
usually when
bold
stuff
move.
Gets to that point, it's like, oh, whoa, everyone bristles up. And
I think that
lawyers
the
involved.
problem, was that Des Moines Water Works, I can speak, I think, for them. I was there at the time, really felt like no one was listening. And so that was an approach. It did not work. And so we are trying a different approach. But this collaborative approach, we hope to see results with.
Yep.
Let's prove that this is the right approach.
So I have a theoretical question. We're going into harvest this year. By the time this episode airs in a couple of weeks, we're turning the end of August, and farmers are making their plans for next year. If we, I'm gonna steal from that video that I watched. If we could wave our wand from the waterworks side of things, what would you want producers to do next spring to start doing?
I'd say start this fall, probably.
Fair. Yep.
I want producers to take advantage of the funding and the resources available and start putting in those practices that really have shown scientifically to make a big difference. Mm-hmm. We just need to scale up more of that.
What's it cost to run the plant when you're full stick?
You didn't let Tami answer.
Oh.
Yeah. So from Central Iowa Water Works perspective, I know that there are farmers that are waiting. They're waiting for funding. They're waiting for the red tape to clear. So I think that just to have farmers continue to speak about the challenges that they're seeing. I know farmers are trying. I know that no one wants poor water quality. So I think between now and next planting season, just hearing farmers speak up some more and ask for what they need, that would be really helpful.
Corey, you had an idea or thought on the farm bill, and that it doesn't necessarily favor the smaller farmer, the one who's a newcomer into farming. And so, contact legislators, make sure that your voices are heard. Those legislators know that they are there to serve, and they want to do that. And maybe if more of us contacted and reached out and formed those relationships and shared our stories, it would make a difference. Yeah. You asked how much it costs, and to run the nitrate removal facility when all vessels are running is about $16,000 a day. So Central Iowa Water Works has spent almost $1 million in 2025 running that facility. And
in comparison to years in the past, that's an extreme uptick.
It is.
Yep.
The most number of days we've run the facility was 177 days in 2015. This year we ran the facility for 112 days.
Yeah, and we're
counting, not. Are we running it today?
It is off today.
It's off today.
But I'd like to add, there were years where it didn't run at all, so it didn't cost anything to run it. It just depends on
we
the
want
year.
those years.
So there's obviously, just like farming, right? We all rely on the weather. I mean, there's an average in there somewhere.
That's right.
Right? So we have to take the lows and the highs. So maybe the average is somewhere between 0 and 150 or whatever. So, yeah, not good that we have to do it, but thankful that we have it.
That's right.
Right?
It's a workhorse.
Yeah. And like Tanner said in the beginning, like, how lucky are we to live in a country and have a thriving community like we do, that we can worry about the health of water, let alone where your next meal is coming from or whether you're going to have water.
And let's not be blind to the fact that there still are people in our communities that do have that fear.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. Do you have questions for us that we can help provide perspective on based upon the conversation? I appreciate you taking notes today. I know Tami and Amy, you guys are here to have open ears, which I appreciate. Sure. And that's kind of what we wanted to be here too as well. So if you have questions, we're happy to answer as well.
I would just like to say I hope this is the start of a relationship and not, the relationship today, because I think we can learn a lot from each other and keep the communication and really be a part of solving the issue altogether.
Yeah, I don't have any questions for you, but I would say you mentioned earlier that you had to look for us. Nobody has to look for us. Just call us, pick up the phone, send a message on Facebook or LinkedIn, however you need to get a hold of us. We are very accessible. If there are any questions or anything like that, just call us.
Websites.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, humans by nature are prideful people, and it takes a lot to have a willingness to learn, but it takes a lot to have a willingness to learn after you've been told you're wrong. Mm-hmm. That's one thing that I had jotted down in the beginning, just based upon how we can get into collaboration. And I do applaud you on taking this approach to be able to invite that conversation. You mentioned a little bit about reaching out to your legislatures. One of the things that I heard in that video that was concerning to me is we have monitoring stations in our water sources. And next year, we're not going to, they may still exist, but the funding to maintain them isn't going to exist. Can you provide perspective on that?
Yes. There are 80 nitrate monitors statewide.
Just for nitrates?
Just for nitrate. And 60 of those will be defunded. And that is great concern. That's going in the wrong direction. We need more data. We need more measurements so that we can show that we are making progress when we are making progress. And so that is something that Des Moines Water Works will be requesting that the legislature reconsider that and keep all 80 nitrate monitors.
Because that's state funded.
That is state funded.
Not a federal funding. That's a state of Iowa budget item.
Yeah.
Is that just like I don't know much about it. Is it just like a automated system that's sitting there measuring flow, or is that a person going and dipping the water?
Do you know?
It's a sensor that's deployed out there. So it's if you go to like Iowa Water Quality Information Systems, you can pull it up.
So if they're there right now, like how much does it really cost to keep it running?
The number that I've heard was it was a reduction of $500,000 in the budget appropriation for those monitors. And so, Des Moines Water Works will be interested in seeing the restoration of that budget.
And if we're going to implement some of these localized plans, like we're going to have to know right?
Yeah,
Hey,
how we're
these guys
doing.
are doing good.
That's right. How will we tell the story that we are making progress? In addition to the 80 monitors that we're talking about right now, Des Moines Water Works has also, and now Central Iowa Water Works has partnered with the USGS to have nitrate monitoring in the rivers online at strategic points. And so we have one at Sac City, on the Raccoon, we have one at Van Meter. And so our scientists at Des Moines Water Works are monitoring what those nitrate concentrations are upstream and then trying to predict them. Usually they lower as they get closer to Des Moines. And so we're using that as somewhat of a predictive analysis on, okay, what are we about to get so that we can prepare and be ready.
What I'm looking at on the screen for the audience members that can't see that is it looks like something that would dangle in the water and it would pass through or pass by, but we don't know for sure if that's the process it is. But I would agree with you. It doesn't feel like it would take a lot of dollars to maintain
Yeah, if they're already there.
something that's in place.
Right, it's just probably maintenance and power, and someone to check them. But
Yeah.
one off the wall thought I had that is a kind of a buzzword in agriculture is carbon. Carbon credits, CI score, carbon intensity scores, and things like that. Have you guys ever explored anything into that as a incentive into the watershed program? Because I mean, reduced nitrates, less fertilizer, and things like that would actually reduce your carbon footprint as a farmer.
So on the drainage side, because it increases that nitrogen use efficiency, so kind of the most intensive process for agriculture is producing that nitrogen fertilizer, right? So that's where a lot of our greenhouse gas comes from. And so by having that drainage system in place, improving that nitrogen use efficiency, you can lower that CI score. That's also important for kind of the consistent yields that you need year in and year out to kind of qualify for those programs. But yeah, that's definitely an option, I would say. And taking it a step further with drainage water management, you can kind of narrow that band of, all right, sometimes it's a guessing game of how much nitrogen you need because you don't know what that weather's going to be for the next year, right? So it's pretty variable what that optimum nitrogen rate's going to be. Controlled drainage, so a few models that Dr. Castellano's run has been shown to reduce that band by 75%. So instead of being plus or minus 40 pounds, it be plus or minus 10 pounds at that point.
Yeah. I just wonder if that would be an avenue to look into that wouldn't cost you guys, wouldn't cost farmers. It would provide some incentives. CI scores right now are ran through the ethanol plants. It would be nice to see something that would go direct to the farmers so they don't have to sell to the ethanol plants if they don't want to, or if they're feeding their own grain. But I do wonder if there would be something there that, like, I don't know how someone creates a carbon credit. Is it a government thing?
Yeah, and water quantity is another one that we're going to be seeing, alternative funding sources is how I phrase it, coming online pretty soon. So all those are options, especially for kind of these structural practices that we spent a lot of time talking about today, where the cost is up front, and then hopefully it's just there doing work year in and year out.
Interesting.
Well, I appreciate your time. I appreciate the willingness. I appreciate your open-mindedness because you didn't even know an outline existed until you got here.
To be fair, me neither.
So I applaud you. I mean, that to me shows the good faith effort that there is room for a conversation. We, I hope, are going to be able to provide a couple of pieces of value to your team. Not only do we have passionate listeners, but we also have passionate listeners from across the U.S. that might have access to solutions that are working in their own local community that they'd be willing to share. How best, if you're all right with it, can they reach out to your teams to share these ideas and communicate openly, not abrasively, openly, and share that feedback?
I think just reaching out, I believe Central Iowa Water Works, certainly Des Moines Water Works, has a contact us link on our website, and we see the things that come through there, and it will get distributed to the appropriate person. That's probably the best way from our perspective anyway. And I will just say that I really appreciate being invited, that this has... that the conversation, you created the opportunity for this conversation. And what I hope that we've done is humanized this conversation. Because I think that water quality, the topic can be villainized. We talked a little bit earlier about sometimes sides are drawn and fingers are pointed, and that's not going to help any of us. And so there are real people behind this problem, both farmers and water utilities, and we're all just trying to do the right thing.
There is an undertow of sentiment on both sides. I think when I was just going to put a shout out for the study that Polk County did, Our Water, Our Future, on YouTube. You can go watch it. Make sure you have an hour and a half of your time. But
you can watch it on 1.5 times speed, and it doesn't take as long.
During that, and what I'm talking about, the undertow, and where I think some of the political or the divide comes in, is goes, okay, now let's talk about where this is coming from. And everyone chuckled in the crowd, right? Like, because they already know, well, it's the farmers, right? So there's a couple instances in there.
Yeah, one of the professors said, made a comment about a type of manure and took an applause, and then made a type, and she says, "Don't clap after this piece."
Yeah,
it's like, well, that's not necessary.
Yeah, I don't.
That's not.
I don't find that we have to treat the water funny. I want to help, right? So
yep.
So that undertow, hopefully we're helping break those barriers down by having conversations like this.
And the great thing about that report is that it was science based.
That is,
yep.
And it's
one of those
hard
professors
to dispute the science.
Correct. One of the professors, the magic wand question that I stole from them, his answer was, "Let's go back to using science."
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that in all parts of agriculture, right? Let's go back to using science, because we can't say, oh, we're going to believe in science here, and then go over on another completely different issue and say, well, that's an issue, But yeah,
we jumped in front of you again, Tami.
Yeah, sorry.
You were gonna.
It's okay. I was gonna say, I almost want to create a contact us farm for profit feedback form on my website so that we know if the feedback is coming from this conversation. It'd be interesting to see who is listening to this and providing feedback based on this conversation.
Yep. I would say our audience will let you know. I mean, they're prideful, right? They're prideful in the operations that they've built, that they run, and the effort that they're taking to do what they do, whether they're in ag sales, whether they're in drainage management, or actively farming themselves. So I bet you they say in the comment section, I heard this on Farm for Profit.
I hope so.
But we encourage them too. I mean, this won't be the end of our interactions. So if our listeners want to send us an email, I said it in the intro, go back and re-listen, send us a text message, give us a call. I think that's another way to be a conduit to help get feedback delivered.
Yeah, let us know what you're doing to do your part, I guess, too. It's always good to hear stories like that, right?
Success stories.
Yep.
Yeah. And Keegan, you have any final comments before we wrap up from your perspective?
No, this was just a great conversation. Thank you guys for letting me be a part of it. And, this year was a tough year. There's no getting around that. But I do think we're incrementally getting there. And, we got to keep pushing forward, and having that driver really, will move that, wave that magic wand, if you will. Get it in front of farmers, get in front of the people that might be funding these practices, to learn, what does it take for a farmer to actually be able to implement this and farm for the 40 years they want to farm.
I think it would be really neat when we're talking about NACADE 27 that invites go out to water utilities to have representatives come, be a part of it, maybe even produce some of the curriculum to help share that perspective. I think that's just another way to add connections that way. And of course, about the time this episode airs, we're going to be at Farm Progress Show, and then we go to Husker Harvest. So that's something too that we get the benefit of, is we get to travel the nation and speak to farmers everywhere. So thank you for arming us with information. Thank you for arming us with perspective and the willingness to learn too.
Yeah. We have a lot of listeners that aren't in Iowa. This is very much an Iowa issue, but water quality is an issue everywhere. So, maybe you can take away some things for your community as well.
That's good. Well, I say thank you one more time to you that are here in the room for your willingness to do this. And then also to you listeners, we appreciate you. A little bit longer episode, but every piece of it was worth it. So please send your feedback. We always love to interact with you, but this is something too to where we have the ability and the opportunity to make serious change. And it doesn't happen without good ideas.